We would request that everyone has their cell phone turned off. In corporate America, where I'm from, you would get a fine if you had your phone on. So we don't want to give out fines, but please turn it off, and that includes the board members. All right, so the next thing is we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Director Zalin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to acknowledge the media. Is the media present? Okay, well then I can acknowledge the media. Maybe they'll watch it on TV. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second? Oh, are we, Chuck, are we voting this way? How are we voting? The usual vote on your screen? Okay, so
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Okay, so I need Director Kane and Director Zalon to vote.
I didn't abstain, this, my machine's on.
You're good. You got it.
You're good, Bunny. You're up there. Yeah.
okay. So the minutes, the agenda has been approved. Okay, we need a motion now to approve the minutes. Are we going to do them individually or together? Together? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
Bert Moldow seconds it. Okay, so now voting, please.
The media just walked in.
Okay, the motion passes to approve the minutes. Okay, so now we have a report of the chair. Well, there are two very important things. Well, actually, three. We have two members of our board who have posted to be on the possibility of running. They're going to run for GRF, which means that one or two might get elected. And if that is the case, we will need candidates for the board. So please pay attention. I'm sure that Lori will send out some information saying, run right upstairs and fill out your application at Catherine's desk. So we want people to stay on top of that because the elections are before our next board meeting? Yes. All right. So if people could please pay attention to that. We also will have a position open on the VMS board, though the person who is on the board has requested to continue, and he does an outstanding job, but this is also the opportunity for people who are interested to please apply if you would like for the VMS board, and that position, I believe, is appointed, I was going to say posted, that's not the right word, appointed in December. So we're just asking people, and we'll also send out information on that to fill out an application, et cetera. But Catherine is the source of all of our applications. So to go on to exciting things, we have two employees who should be commended for their outstanding work or their dedication to the community because they noticed a fire, and if anybody wants to add to my story, please do. And they potentially saved a lot of damage or lives and they should be commended. Does anyone want to embellish my report, which doesn't sound very lively, but we do want to commend them? Brad can't control himself.
I'm pretty good at embellishment. You've probably heard that.
Well, let's just tell the truth.
It is very interesting because Bruce and I were driving around, our new landscape director, that Gate 11 area immediately prior to the fire, went back to the community center. Right when I got back, they said there's a fire in Gate 11. And so came right back and heard the story about these two wonderful employees who were driving the neighborhood, much like we were, looking at landscape issues, saw smoke coming from the garage. One employee jumped out, that was Luis Lopez, and ran into the manor and carried the 107-year-old resident to safety, while the other employee, Dennis, called 911. And the response was pretty spectacular. I don't know that I've ever seen that many public safety personnel gathered in a location such as this in such great numbers. I think there were 22 response vehicles, and there must have been as many deputy sheriffs there as well. There were a lot of folks there. The perimeter was secured, the fire was extinguished, the resident was offered medical aid, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the neighbors in the area who provided refreshments and really immediate aid to the resident, her caregiver, and also assisted public safety personnel who were on site. So it was a team effort, but certainly led by the two individuals that you'll be recognizing in a few minutes.
So I believe the media is present now? Okay, good. And we also have Heather here, the picture taker personified. So we would like to, at this point, I guess I'm supposed to get up, recognize both Louis and Dennis. And thank you very much. So is there anything you'd like to say? No? And what about you? And who are you?
I'm Dennis Pratt,
Okay,
landscape
Dennis.
supervisor.
And you want to say?
It's just one of those things where we just reacted and it all became a blur when I thought about it later. But I'm so happy that the lady is safe.
And we are very glad that you are part of our team. So thank you very much. And you too, we're very glad you're part of our team. So here you go. And do they get anything else other than this? Only one plaque? It's 15. Where's the second one, Mary? What do we do? We have to share it.
Oh, it's right behind, it's right behind you. Right behind you.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
We're worried about assessments.
That's important.
At gate 11.
Okay, so first I
Come up here, find the logo and start in front of the TV.
I have to go up there. We have to go up there now?
Let's go up here.
Take the mic. Take the mic.
By the logo? Okay, here. Are we supposed to stand in front of the logo? All right. My goodness. Next time we should rehearse this. Okay, so,
This is for Dennis.
thank,
Thank you.
so what else do they get? Yes, you will be getting an additional reward from HR. I don't know what it is, but you'll be getting it. Okay. But before I go, he was also, who was responsible for something else? Two? You should get 2 plaques? And what did he do? What did he do?
So Luis, a couple months ago, also gave life-saving assistance to a gate ambassador at Gate 11, who he recognized was having some trouble, so stayed with her and helped with gate entry until the paramedics came. So he's recognized for that as well.
Congratulations. Make sure you stick around.
Thank you.
Rosemary, can I make a comment? Rosemary, can I make a comment?
Rosemary.
Rosemary. Well, you know, as a landscape chair here, I want to make a comment about Dennis. Since, Dennis, when did you join us? About 2 years?
23rd, 2016.
Yeah, okay. Since he joined us, the reaction was so dramatic. People, before he came, everybody, resident complexes, there's no reaction from the supervisor or landscape. Since Dennis joined us, you know, several director knows that people right away calling me, telling us, hey, you got a good supervisor. Now the reactions immediately. So Dennis, in addition to this work, he's a very excellent employee and supervisor. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I don't know about Louise, so I couldn't make any comments.
Thank you very much, James. Before we go on to the resident speaking, we've had a tough month here. My husband died 4 weeks ago. Joe, Brad, help me here. Joe from VMS. Joe Rainey's wife passed away. He's our representative of VMS. So, and then Bert wants to say something, but all I could say is appreciate what you have. That's it. Go ahead.
Very recently, Denny Welch passed away, and she was a member of this board, and she has dedicated, I would say, her life to this community. I think we've all had some experience with Denny, and her loss will really be felt from the whole community and everybody who knew her.
Thank you, Bert. At this time, we'll open the forum for speakers. I want to remind everybody that you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. And if you do have a question or a comment that you want to make, please fill out one of the forms that's up here at the end of the, what do you call this? A dais, and put it in the basket there. And so your question will be put in order, and it will eventually be asked. Thank you very much.
Okay, so our first.
Wait, excuse me. The key is that when you come up, and Leslie will call you up, is we don't answer your question when you come up. We write down your questions, and then after everyone has had their opportunity to speak, the individual members of the board who are working in that specific area, and sometimes our general manager will address the issue. So each of your items that you come up with will be addressed. We just don't do it immediately. Okay? All right, Leslie, it's all yours.
Okay, so our first three up is Nancy Mansell, Norm Davis, and John Sowers. And Nancy, you are up first.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the dogs, and I understand that we're going to have a new park. What I'm wondering now is, can the existing park stay open as it is until the new one is open? There's a lot of people that have, walking problems or various health problems, and the park is the best thing for them. And I understand that I don't quite understand. I know when it first came up, it said there were like 23 people that owned part of that park, and they didn't want us to stay or something. I really don't understand. But anything you could do to keep the dog park open until the other one opens, we'd really appreciate it. And I thank you for all your hard work you put in.
Thank you. Next, Leslie.
Next up is John Sowers. And then after that will be, and then Norm Davis.
Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. John Sowers, 5377 Avenida Sociega. Subsidization. Why should we subsidize golfers? RV storage spaces, clubhouses, bus service. Outside, a round of golf is at least $25, and that's a cow pasture. We've got a beautiful golf course that we're currently charging 11. Understand it's going to 13 the first of the year. We've got about 400 RV spaces that we rent for less than $14 a month. Santa Ana has a waiting list. They're $125 a month for an RV space storage when you're not using it. Mission Viejo runs anywhere from $180 to $640 a month. Clubhouses. We've got beautiful clubhouses with great facilities, cooking, entertaining, ballrooms. And from what I understand, and I'm not knowledgeable about this subject, from what I understand, they're rented to outsiders for outsider activities that we subsidize at about 10 cents on the dollar for them to rent them. Bus service. Nobody rides the buses. They run around here, all 8 of them, plus 8 of them that are sitting up in the maintenance department. There's 16 buses. What, at $150,000 apiece? $2.5 million? 40 drivers and support, 40 grand a year, $1.5 million. Licensing, insurance, registration, whatever else, maintenance. $3 to $5 million a year to run around with empty buses spewing diesel smoke and going down the road at 40 miles an hour to get back so that they can have their rest period. Let's get a fleet of cars. Let's put some drivers. Let's get a dispatcher with a phone number that dispatches a cab to whomever for whatever. We should subsidize those folks who got here 40 years ago and don't have the means to pay the carrying charges, utilities, food on the table. Hey, thanks a lot. I got 13 seconds left.
Okay, Mr. Sowers, it's our goal always on the board to be polite to our residents, but and because you are a resident of Third, we want to hear you. But this is really all of it. You should go and say this all again, as we say a lot of the things to GRF. All of we really try to fight very hard with GRF to make sure that things are in balance. So everything that you mentioned is relates to GRF as opposed to Third. But because you're a resident of Third, we listen to you. So and thank you. So if anyone else
I will
wants,
address the GRF next meeting, which is a week from now.
and you better. The thing is if there's anyone else who's planning on coming up who wants to address GRF, please save it for the GRF meeting. We really try to take care of primarily the things that have to do with the Housing Mutual. But we do have members of the GRF board sitting in the audience, so I'm sure I'm looking at one. I'm sure they're listening to you, and Brad is listening too. Okay, next up, Leslie.
Okay, so next up is Norma Jean Davis, and then Mark Nussbaum and Nahid Nadaoust.
Good morning, Norma.
Hi. I'm not used to speaking, but I just want to ask you, please, leave the dog park home open until the other one is built, because there's a lot of older people, they can't walk. And I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so next up is Mark Nussbaum, then Nahid Nadaoust, and then Nasser. And I apologize, I can't say your last name, so I am going to hope that the first name is sufficient enough.
Morning, Mark Nussbaum, 3185C. I'd like to address the dog park issue also. I'd like to ask our mutual why it's taken so long to either come back with a yes, we support the dog park and we will keep it open, or no, for whatever reasons, we don't support keeping the dog park open. I think as everybody knows, we got one more day. The dog park closes tomorrow. The city and GRF came to an agreement with their MOU 2 months ago, just about 2 months ago, a week into when it first came out. Third Mutual has had this now for a month. We discussed it last month at the Third Mutual meeting. Everybody stated reasons why it was a good idea to have a dog park in our community, and there's still no answer. It seems it just found its way to somebody's desk and is sitting there. So I'd like to know what happened. Secondly, I'm not sure how this works with the 200 and some people that own, within Third Mutual, that actually own a piece of land that the dog park is in. I've lived here for 3 years. I was told that you own what's inside your four walls. Outside of that, there's common property. I didn't know that that owners within Third Mutual or within Laguna Woods also got a piece of land outside of their dwelling, not even contingent or bordering their dwelling, but maybe hundreds of feet away. I'd like to know how that works, and also if that's part of the reason why we haven't heard an answer from Third Mutual on keeping the dog park open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Nahid is up next, then Nasser, and then Susan Gale Bain.
Good morning, everyone.
Excuse me, could you put the name up? Okay, go right ahead.
Good morning. My name is Nahid Nadust, a long-term property owner within the facility. And I had to take a half a day off just to be heard, and I'm not sure if it's you or GRF. This new policy that's been put in for a rental policy has been a thorn in my side. I don't understand why you need a certain score. First of all, I don't understand the entire concept of collecting from renters if the owner doesn't pay. And I've been on boards in the past, and when we could not collect from the owner the fees, it was always a lien against the property. It was never collecting from the renter. So, and I'm not sure if the board, if the policies are the same for people that actually occupy, like owner occupied versus non-owner occupied. And if it is not the same, then is it a prejudice against the non-owner occupied to be in this position? The idea that the renters are supposed to have a particular score to be able to rent, to me is ludicrous. Because if I want to rent it to my brother, I don't have to know what his score is if I choose to as the owner. So I think the policy is digging in too much into the area that it's not supposed to. All I see is a class action suit from what is coming about from this new policy. I'm asking the board to have this policy reviewed by legal again, and I'm talking to another lawyer because I am quite upset about it.
You have 45 seconds.
I understand. I'm looking at it. So I wanted to see if the policy is the same, or are you singling out the properties that are non-owner occupied? And that's it.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
So next up is Nasser, and then Susan, and then Tevril.
Good morning. My name is Nasser Abazadeh. I'm a property owner here at Laguna Wood. We've been trying to extend our lease with our existing tenant, and I recently found out that the policy has changed. I'm here to tell you that I seriously object for the mutual asking for a tenant's credit score and a copy of the lease between a landlord and a tenant. I think that the association is reaching too far. I'm not sure if these requirements are even legal. In speaking to a staff member about these recent changes in the association, it was explained to me that the mutual has put in the new requirements because some property owners cannot keep up with their monthly HOA dues. So mutual apparently has come up with this mechanism to protect its solvency. If this explanation is true, it's worse than I'd imagine. The rationale is totally bizarre to me. I will tell you that the new policy is so bizarre that your own staff cannot figure them out. In order to extend our lease, the leasing office initially gave us 2 weeks to get all the paperwork together. When I read the new policy and I pointed out some conflicts within the policy itself, their response was, well, we'll give you 2 months so that we can figure out what to do. I mean, it's so bizarre. This new policy and the requirements have been in place since July 1, and your own staff is scratching their head as to what to do with it. Again, I'm here to object to the new requirements, and I would like this board to set aside the new policy and come up with something that's meaningful and makes sense to me as a property owner. If that's not the case, and I would like to find out how this new policy came apart, the letter that I've given to you, I'm requesting copies of any and all records that led to the imposition of new requirements and changes in the leasing policy, copies of all correspondence relative to this issue, and I'm also interested in finding out what the association is doing with the owner-occupied residences in order to protect its own solvency, or is it that you're just singling out people who are leasing their properties? Thank you for your time.
Okay, and next up is Susan, and then it will be Tevril, and then Milton.
I would like to remind the people in the audience that before we do things, we always work with legal counsel. And I know that the different board members are going to answer these things, but we don't sit in a room and willy-nilly come up with things without making sure that they're reviewed with appropriate legal counsel and that things are discussed. So if that's going to be part of your conversation, please don't have that be part of your conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for serving on the board. I'd like to say that I feel that the board has voted on things that are prejudicial against renters. When we first rented here, we were told and we read in our lease agreements.
Are you a renter or an owner?
I am a renter.
Yeah.
I read in our lease agreements that we were entitled to everything that an owner has to offer.
In technicality, the speakers are supposed to be members only. So therefore, the person who gave you the opportunity to speak did not do it correctly. As long as you're up there, I don't want to offend you and say you better sit down, because it's our fault that you are allowed to speak. But the speakers are supposed to be members only. That's reserved to owners. But go ahead and finish.
Well, in the lease agreement, it says that we are entitled to the same, that the owner gives up his space in the community, in the rental unit, and that the renter is entitled to all of those activities. Now we're being classified as second-class citizens. To correct the man who said about the $11 going to $13 on golf, that's for owners only. Our fees are going up from $11 to $24. You know, why isn't that an even amount to everybody who uses the golf course? That we've checked with many other communities in the country. Nobody classifies their golfers as renters and owners or second-class citizens, and I object to that decision that has been made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Tevril, then Milton, and then Janet.
Good morning. My name's Terrell E. Reich. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this morning. I have recently become a member due to a death in my family. My father, George Reich, passed away in August of this past year. And also, I'm here in reference to another passing of the mother of the people that we rent the unit to that I inherited. Their mother passed away, and she was the qualifying member or resident, being of age of 55 or older. The two people that were living with her was her daughter and his husband, which are 40 and 50. And due to the age requirement, we're being asked to have these people move out. We have a brother who is willing to lease the property from me, who is age of 65 as a full-time resident, and we are approaching the board to see if this is a viable direction that we can take in order to keep these people in our property, and also with the brother as the primary leasee. That's pretty much in a nutshell what I'm approaching you for, and would like to appeal the refusal that we pursued the lease with just the wife and the brother's name, and I think what we should have done was to pursue the lease in the brother's name with the wife and the brother as permanent residents also. I think that covers it. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Next up is Milton, then Janet Major, and then Carol Moore.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Milton Miyauchi. I live at 3441 Calle Azul, Unit A. My problem started 3 years ago. I read an article in the Globe asking about water conservation. It was in the middle of a severe drought, the worst one we've had. And I decided to remove the grass from the front of my unit. So I got in touch with some of the people that were in the article, and Mr. James Tung was one of them. He referred me to Brian Gentry, who was the landscape supervisor for Laguna Woods at that time. I met with him several times. He came out and we decided on a course of action. His only warning was don't use small pebbles when you replace the grass. Use either large stones or paving stones, because the small stones interfere with the lawn mowing. So I had two problems. One was he gave me a letter of approval to do this work, and I lost it. And so compliance said, we're not going to act on your problem because you have no proof that you had approval to do this. It took me a long time. I'm not a detective, but I finally found Brian Gentry in Long Beach. He said he remembers me, he remembers the project. It was one of the last ones that he did before he left Laguna Woods. And as your agent, he can testify that I was given a letter of approval. The second problem was I've been in a divorce situation. The address of my property was changed to my wife's address in San Clemente. So I never got any of the notices until I changed my address last week and didn't know that any of this was going on. She finally said, oh, we're in trouble here and you need to take care of this. That was 2 weeks ago she told me that. So I was not aware of any of this situation. I did talk to Brian Gentry. He said I should meet with the landscaping department and see if I can work things out. So my goal of water conservation by removing the grass would be acceptable to the board. And that was my main thing.
Milton, your time is up.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of information on you because we've worked with you a number of times, so I'm sure that we'll handle this afterwards.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Janet Major is up next, then Carol Moore, and then Jay Clampert. Janet? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Janet.
And this is probably the freeziest thing I have ever done in my life. But I am, oh, okay, thank you. Oh, better. Well, my name is Janet Major. I live at 2114A with my husband and our two children, Pixie and Roxy. We've been going to the dog park for probably about 4 years, and it's both a social time for me and also for the two dogs. I had back surgery, and now I'm having some complications, and I'm not allowed to drive because I have the pain in my legs. So I have to take Lillian here with me wherever I go. Since this time, I also could not drive. And so my husband had to take me, or else one of my dog friends would pick us up and take us there if he was doing something else. I have met and made so many friends there, and also the dogs have become a little pack. And so if there's any new dog that comes in, they make sure they tell them the rules and who owns the park. So this has been very important to both myself and the dogs for a long, long time. And I really hope that the park can be left open until the new park is made. And that's it. I just so hope that the park will be able to stay open until the new park's finished. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Carol Moore, and then Jay Clampert, and then Dale Clampert.
Good morning. I thank each of you for serving on this board. I know it takes patience, it takes consideration, and it takes a person who is thoughtful. And you are dealing with problems often that are very difficult, and the answers aren't easy to find. But I believe that you have selected a solution regarding the rental policy that only exacerbates the problem. I believe that happened in August when you passed that resolution, and I sent emails, I sent letters, I asked you to review the issues and I can attest that your legal advice frequently has been in error. And I have letters proving that you have rescinded previous decisions because of advice that was in error. My concern is when I think about an 89-year-old tenant that I have that was told she needed to produce all these documents, she doesn't even drive. She hires a person to drive her. She's a patient person, and during the discussion of her needing a criminal background check, she responded, "I am not a criminal." Can you imagine how she felt? That was just abominable. I've also received phone calls. I have proof of people, 91-year-old person who resides here and has lived here for 17 years, being asked to do the same thing. This isn't right. What is being done is unfair, it's unethical, and it's unlawful.
Okay, next up is Jay Clampert, then Dell Clampert, and then Martin Rhodes.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Jay, and I'm the membership chair for the dog club. So I'm kind of I have a lot of people behind me that are actually have talked about the dog park, and that's what I'm here to talk about. But I'm also representing a number of other people in the dog club who use the dog park on a daily basis. A number of them are infirm, some of them cannot walk long distances, so they take their dog to the dog park to be able to have their dog have some exercise. It's a social thing also for them. They get to talk to people at the dog club, at the dog park, where normally they would not have social interaction. What my concern is that the issue of the dog park staying open has been put off by the legal counsel of this board a number of times. That's what I understand. Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Then my information is wrong. But I think this board needs to seriously take into consideration the people who use that dog park. And those are the people who I am here talking about. They need that dog park to stay open until the new one is created. And Brad and a number of people on GRF have said they're willing to create a new dog park for them. I would appreciate the due consideration for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Dale Clamper, and then Martin Rhodes, and then Reed Archambault.
Good morning. My name is Dale Clampert, and thank you for hearing me. And I am actually going to address the president for a moment because you vociferously shook your head before when he had the wrong information or supposedly had that. But that lawyer has given us a terrible time. We're trying to just get an answer. And then my other question to you is, you come out of corporate America. So do I, from New York. And I have never, ever experienced in New York, if I did not give an answer to my clients, I would have been kicked out. It's not acceptable. We haven't had an answer in how long? We're just trying to keep this dog park open for people. By the way, I'm the assistant chair of the dog park, of the membership chair. And we're just trying to keep it open for these people who have dogs. It's a simple matter. That's what this community is about. It's about keeping us alive and healthy. This is real, this white stuff. And so is it for everyone else. Your gray hair, you earned. These people want to stay healthy. They want to stay vibrant. One of the ways they do it is at the dog park, with their dogs, with the socialization. Please, we're asking you, just keep this puppy open until we can get a new one built. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Martin Rhodes, and then Reed Archambault, and then Judith Troutman.
Good morning, Board. It's been a long time since I've been on that side of the dais. Now I'm on this side of the dais. It's been a nice run. I've had a wonderful time. But my problem today is one of responsibility and legality. It refers to the lessor-lessee agreement with a third party called Third Mutual. All three parties agreed to the lease. Third Mutual authorizes members, as defined in the CC&Rs, to lease their manor. Any lease by a member automatically transfers the right to use the community facilities for the member to the lessee. In our bylaws, Article 3, Section 3.2 and 3.3. The GRF resolution calls lessees non-member occupants and sets up a different fee structure and priority for amenities amenity usage, which applies to owners who have not leased their units. This directly conflicts with our having been transferred the owner's privilege to membership in GRF for the duration of that lease. First, I look at the application for permit to lease premises, Third Mutual condominium. And the lessee, the landlord, and Third Mutual, and all parties to this agreement, in the very first paragraph states this. All three parties have entered into a mutual covenant, subject in general conditions of the Third Mutual's permit to lease a manor. These general conditions states that the lessee and the co-occupant may use the facilities and receive the services made available by GRF to all members.
Marty, you have only 14 seconds left.
I just want to thank you for listening to me and hope that you will consider taking this up with Golden Rain Foundation, because they have overstepped and usurped your authority. That's what homeowner associations make the GRF.
Thank you, Marty.
Up next is Reed Archambault, then Judith Troutman, and then Kathy Perleberg.
Good morning. I also stand to be heard regarding GRF's recent adoption of the resolution, Members First resolution. I don't know how that ever made it to the GRF board. I'm told it didn't go through a committee, but it just kind of ended up Thursday for a Tuesday hearing, and it was passed very late in the day after essentially everyone went home. But I'm concerned how it impacts Third Mutual, because Third Mutual is a party to the permit to lease agreement with the member and the lessee. And the permit to lease a manor states a lessee and the co-occupants may use the facilities and receive the services made available by GRF to all members. There's no qualifier whether you're an owner that's renting a unit or an owner member. So I think what this GR resolution Members First has done is abrogate the lease agreements. So now what we're going to have, I fear, is a bunch of lawsuits or people, declaring material breaches. Because what's happened now is people who want to use the equestrian or want to use the garden center or want to use the golf course at the same rate can no longer do it, at least as of January 1st. And in that respect, I did a little research. The excuse made for this resolution was that there's waiting lists at the garden center. Well, I went to the garden center. There is no waiting list. The problem has been trying to contact the people who want to rent a spot and them getting back. They have 60 empty spots right now. The other excuse was the RVs. I went to the RV. They got plenty of spaces. The only limited spaces are pass-through spaces, so people don't have to back in or back out, but merely drive through. Essentially, the waiting list is like a football game. People between the 40s want to get to the 50s. Well, that's the only waiting list that exists at the RV park, is for these premium pass-through spots. They've got nothing but spots down there, empty spots. But that was the excuse made by GRF why we need this Members First resolution. And, I think it's wrong legally, and I think it's wrong morally. Once you're behind the gates, we should all be invested in this community. And the way to do that is treat people like they belong. Don't treat them like second-class citizens. Don't say, I'm going to get in the pool first. I'm going to get, first tee times. I'm going to get the pass-through spot in the RV. You're going to have, there's 26% of the people renting in this place. You're going to have resident against resident. This is going to create chaos. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, up next is Judith Troutman, then Kathy, and then Marcia. Or Marcia.
Good morning. Judith Troutman, 3011B, also representing GRF. Last night, and I think 4 other directors that are here went to a meeting with me that was sponsored or facilitated by Ed Tao from the ACC. I think I know for sure that was Annette and Steve Parsons, Susan Kane, and Bert. Might have been one other person. And the purpose of that meeting is, what can we change here in the community that will lead to better health and welfare of the residents? And one of the first things that kept coming up that we talked about for the first 45 minutes was better communication. And I've heard nothing but that topic all morning long, where, well, how does communication fix your health and well-being? Well, a lot of people seem to be stressed because they have either lack of or improper information about the dog park, and the same about the RV lot. So what we're going to work on this year is increasing better communications, although we've done great strides in the last 3 years, and with the Breeze and other forms of venues that we communicate through, to improving that stress for all these people behind me, because obviously there's just a lack of communication. So as far as GRF goes, yes, we're here and we hear you, and every issue you've talked about, I guarantee you, there's 2 sides to every story. I personally voted against the fees, but not because we don't need to increase the fees, but because there's more to it than that. I want it to be looked at a little clearer and be a little fairer, like a lot of you have brought up. And we are going to do that after the fact, but we are going to do that. The next thing was they brought up candidates. Okay, that was the second thing we talked about. How do we get more people to get on the boards? And it's the first thing most people say is, well, I want to make a difference. But it's more than that. It's what are you going to get out of being on the board? Number one, you get self-gratification. There's a camaraderie that lasts for years. Yes, occasionally we have 2 people that clash. You can tell by some of our recent board meetings, but that's rare. But for the most part, you meet friends that you keep for years and years. And it's mentally challenging. And I don't say we play mind games, but as a hospice person, I do take a lot of classes on Alzheimer's. And they have proven time and time again, mental activity reduces Alzheimer's. So there's a lot of good reasons to become a board member that's positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Judith. Okay, next up.
Next up is Kathy. She had to go to work. Okay, and then after that is Marcia or Marcia?
Marika.
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 You don't want to forget.
Okay.
No, but I be very fair, okay? And I'm completely different from whatever you heard this morning. I'm sorry, I'm Marika Montañez, 55193C. I have a couple of questions. One of the questions is how often the washing machines and the dryers are changed in the 3-story building. The other question is, when is the elevator and the mailroom tile will be replaced? The other question is, well, the other problem is we've been having a constant leak in the garage, in the subterranean garage. It's not enormous, but it leaks continuously. For now, we have requested repair 4 times. They came out and repaired it, but then it's restored and it's restored. So my question is, maybe they have to go a little further than just tighten the bolts and see what's causing this continuous leak. The other problem is we have an apartment that hasn't been lived in 20 years. I have visited that unit yesterday because they have lots of debris on the patio that should not be there, and the apartment reeks. I mean, it smells so bad. There must be so much humidity and everything. So I don't know how to go about taking care of that unit or whatever we have to do to make it sure it's okay. And the last thing, we have some rats. And if I would know where to go for the rats, then I will want to take care of that. Thank you very much and welcome back.
And that concludes our speakers.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to, a number of the board members are going to speak. I do want you to know, we're not going to ask Brad to speak regarding the additional fee for the renters, because I up front, third board was not excited about this. We did not give it our blessing. Our eyebrows went up, our eyes were opened, and we, unfortunately, we had absolutely no communication with the GRF board about this, and it was all a big surprise. So the basic thing is we, those of you who know us, we just don't sit back. So this is something that we know that we're going to address, and we're looking forward to the new GRF board coming in so that perhaps we could sit down with GRF and with United and intelligently, notice I used that word because it was missing, discuss what has to be done to take care of the community and to take care of our residents. So I'm not going to let us go into, big excuses and have whatever. We are not leaving this alone. So please know that. It's not going to be left alone. And we're very happy that Judith was here because she made us feel even better. So that's one big thing that we don't have to address unless one of the board members wants to, but we're pretty all in agreement on this, I believe. All right, so the next thing, I think one of the biggest things is the dog park. Now, one thing on that, we didn't know anything about them closing the dog park until we read it in the papers. So there, we had nothing, another like surprise, surprise. So, and a lot of us own dogs. I do. Who is prepared? Keep your finger down. Is anybody on the board prepared to address what's going on with this? Because Bert, okay, we're going to let the board speak first. But I think that, every day is a big surprise. Every day is a big challenge. And I don't understand why we're having such a difficulty with it. So go ahead, Bert, and then Brad, you could speak too. And the other Bert. All right.
I just want to start off by saying I don't know where this idea came from that our lawyer is holding up the whole works. That is not true. And unfortunately, this community runs on rumors. And we talked about communication. That's why communication is so important. And I made this statement once before. In physics, there is nothing that's faster than the speed of light, except a rumor in Laguna Woods Village. So I would caution everyone, instead of listening to your neighbor, try to get the facts from the board members or someone with some authority who can straighten it out. And partially that's our fault too. We are actively working on the dog park. I do not know about this deadline and why it's being closed. In fact, we're having a closed meeting right after this, and that is on our agenda. And our lawyer will be present, and Brad will be present. It's a very complex arrangement, and I'm sure Brad can explain it more, but there are GRF, Third Mutual, and the city involved. And they're doing this very elaborate negotiation. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why it seems to be taking so long. But we've heard your pleas. We are not, as Rosemarie has pointed out, anti-dog. Some of my best friends are dogs. So what we're saying is we will do our best to make sure that you are satisfied.
Okay, I'm sorry, the next person who wants to speak is on this issue is Bert Moldow.
I think the other Bert said everything I was going to say.
Oh. Okay, so then go ahead, Brad.
Are you desirous of a more technical explanation of this?
No, we just want to know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I can't tell you what the city's going to do tomorrow. But what I can tell you is that the issues that GRF and Third Mutual face in this endeavor are quite different. Hence, a different agreement is required. And so the agreement that the city provided for GRF is fine. It works great. We need something that is a little more complex for the issues that you face. And so there are a number of reasons for that that I won't go into unless you want me to. But we're going to be talking about that today, and I am hopeful that we can move forward and give the city time to relocate that dog park from where it is now onto GRF property in its entirety, which I think is much more appropriate. And I think it'll be beneficial for some of those residences that are very close there that have complained on occasion about some of the noise and odors and things. They're quite close. So I think there's a big win-win here, and we're on the cusp of it. And I would ask our residents to have faith that we're working on your behalf, and I feel very positive about the outcome of this.
So what are the odds of a stay of execution?
I think they're high.
To use, like not, because we're dealing with tomorrow. And it was done so radically by the city without much thought or concern how they did it. So I'm sure that you'll.
Yeah, the actual exact form of the agreement, we may have to tweak a little bit.
Yeah, but in the meanwhile.
I think that there's enough momentum moving in the proper direction for them to begin their process of relocation, knowing that we're going to work with them to keep that open until they can get it moved.
Okay, thank you, Brad. All right, so I think the next biggest issue on the list has to do with
I know, rent.
leasing.
Leasing. I want to set a couple of things straight right at the beginning. One, and I think that has already been addressed, but I will stress that we have nothing at all to do with golf rates, RV rates, or setting this two-tier or whatever tier structure. That is GRF's doing. If you are unhappy with that.
Can we please be respectful in the audience and not be making comments and listen to what Bert is saying? Thank you.
If you are unhappy about that, you have to direct your comments to the GRF board and the appropriate GRF committees. We have had informal discussions, I know I have, with some of the members of the GRF board, but you have to direct your comments to them. Our philosophy is not that renters are second-class citizens. A third of the people who live in the Mutual, in Third Mutual, are renters. So that would be really crazy. And I started out here as a renter. In fact, I rented for about 8 years, and then I bought, and now I've lived here for 12 years. And the idea is we welcome renters with the idea that they want to get a sense of the community and ultimately move here. That would be the most positive thing that could happen, but that doesn't always happen. The second thing is this policy did not spring out of someone's head like thaw suddenly. This was developed, and it was developed in open session by the Residency and Compliance Task Force. We met for many months and went over this and discussed it. We had it reviewed actually with 2 lawyers. So the idea that we're doing something illegal, I don't think is really proper. We have really looked at this. Someone questioned the whole concept of having the rent go to the Mutual. when the owner is not capable of paying the assessments. That is not a new requirement. The old leasing policy had that same requirement. That's the same document in both policies. So this is not something that sprung up right away. In fact, if you'll give me just a minute, I wrote a brief article. It's going to appear in the Breeze tomorrow. I'd like to read it to you because it, I think, gives our position not so much in legalese, but in simple language that you have some feeling for where we're coming from. Several residents, and many of them are here right now, have asked about why we now require that renters, that's lessees, submit credit scores and criminal background checks when leasing a manor from a landlord or lessor. The answer is simple. The Board of Directors is requiring this to meet our responsibilities to ensure the financial stability and the security of the mutual. A good credit score obviously shows that the lessee can pay the rent. This is important not only to the lessor, and that's the landlord, but to the mutual as well, since the rent money is often used to pay the landlord's assessments. In some cases, however, the lessor is unable to pay the assessments, so the mutual has the right to obtain the rental money directly from the tenant and apply it to the assessments. While it is true that the mutual has no direct relationship to the renter, but only to the owner-landlord, it is in everyone's interest that we maintain a secure environment. After all, the renter does not spend all of his or her time in the manor. She has or he has access to the whole community. It is important that the Mutual Board of Directors confirm that renters are living in our community without a criminal history to enable our homeowner members and residents to protect themselves, inasmuch as this is a retirement community, hence the need for a background check. Please note that the type of information we are requesting now is pretty standard for leasing throughout the country. Moreover, when we developed this policy, we worked closely with our attorney to make sure we were following the guidelines and statements put out by such agencies as the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so we could make informed, consistent, non-discriminating, lawful decisions. I also want to point out that when we developed this policy, we developed it with the idea that it was not etched in stone. We were going to put it out and see how well it worked. And we have been looking at it. And we are going to have a meeting this afternoon at our closed meeting to go out to review where we're at and, if necessary, make some adjustments to the policy. But we are not anti-renters. We are not mean-spirited. We want to make this a fair community for everyone.
I'm sorry, I stepped away for a few minutes, but I'm sure that you said that we're really sorry if one of the members of our staff had a difficult time understanding it for the resident who said that, and that we would make sure that wherever we are, when we discuss it all and review it again and hear your comments, that we will make sure that we try our best to get it right, and that our general manager and our VMS representatives will make sure that our staff understands it and could help you, not sit there and go, well, I can't figure it out either, because that, you hear that and you want to like shoot yourself. So we've taken that into consideration also. So Bert, have you addressed it? Are there any other board members want to add to what Bert said, or we're okay? All right, so, what? Okay.
Okay, one of the members, or one of the owner members who spoke about the fact in leasing, although they're not here now, that they were upset that they had to furnish a copy of the lease. And also they were upset about the assignment, and we have already adjusted the assignment. But as a member owner, when you purchase a unit in here, you are furnished through escrow, I believe, a copy of the CC&Rs, the bylaws, and the articles of incorporation. And I don't know about you, but when I buy something, I read those things. So if it says that if I decide to rent it out, I have to furnish a copy of the lease, and we have to look at that to protect. We have a duty as a board member to make sure that the other members are secure. So we're not breaking any laws in asking for a copy of the lease or the assignment. Thank you.
Yes, Bert.
With respect to the fee structure of GRF, GRF, according to our trust, has every right to do what they're doing. Okay, but they are in direct conflict with our governing documents, and therein lies the problem. And this is something that we will be discussing with our lawyer to find out, which is going to take precedence, the trust or our governing documents. I mean, it's something that has to be resolved. And we're aware of this, well aware of this. Secondly, we've had Marika, washing machines and dryers. Okay, they are basically replaced based upon an analysis of how frequently they are being repaired. There is discussion at M&C with regard to replacement of all dryers, since the current dryers that we have are residential dryers, and we feel that we really should be putting in commercial dryers for our facilities and our people. With regard to elevator replacement, we do have an ongoing program. Every year, 10 elevators are refurbished, and this will go on until all of the elevators have been refurbished. With regard to the apartment that is not occupied, I think our compliance is well aware of this fact, and they're trying to do something about it. Okay? Thank you.
Bert, I have one that is really going to set you off today. Yesterday, they came and replaced a washer in my building because it had been broken since Thursday. But on the new washer, it says you could push a button for extra rinses. I swear. And I said, oh, gosh, we better put tape over this or James is going to have a breakdown. But how could we ever? I mean, we have to, what are we buying? I mean, this was a brand-new washer, and there's actually a little thing that you push for extra rinse. And here we are trying to watch our water. So I couldn't ask them to take it back because, but we have to just be really careful. So, okay, so did we address everything that the residents brought up? And if anyone in the audience feels that you haven't addressed it, please let us know. You can let Leslie know, and we will get back to you personally because it's our responsibility to, we're here for you. We are put on the board by the residents, and we're here to take care of the residents. And we certainly are listening and trying to make things better. Okay. Oh, Bunny. Okay, Bunny.
Well, what we didn't address was the gentleman that came up with the residents that were being asked to be moved because they're underage and don't, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, we are a senior community and we have age requirements, and those age requirements should be met. And to say that you can bring in somebody that doesn't meet those age requirements and try to manipulate our rules is not acceptable. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you, buddy, and that's the truth. All right.
Can I,
so-
can I ask, can I answer another? add to
Certainly,
this?
you can do
I-
whatever.
if-
You're
if-
the first vice president,
Right,
after all.
yeah, I understand. I try to keep my mouth shut, though, most of the time. And anybody on the board can correct me on this, but if you are the primary leasee in a situation like this, you have to occupy the unit. Yes. That has to be understood. So if you're going to have other occupants in there, you can't live somewhere else, lease the apartment and live somewhere else, and then have those occupants reside there. That's all I wanted to add.
That's a good point, because that would involve subleasing. And we do not allow lessees to sublease. And that's been one of the abuses, unfortunately, in the community that we're trying to stop.
Okay, so hopefully we'll move on with the dog park and everything will be sunny and bright. Okay, next item on our list, and thank you all. This has been a big crowd today. We had no idea as to what the big topic would be, but we sort of guessed. So, and we will really be working hard on this whole leasing issue and et cetera, very hard. All right, so now we need the update from VMS Director Marcy Scheinwald.
Good morning, everybody. I don't think I'm going to be as exciting or as controversial, or hopefully not. I'm Marcy Scheinwald. I'm a member of the VMS board. For those people who do not know, we have 9 members, 3 appointed by each of the mutuals and GRF. Essentially, our role is to provide oversight to the administration and to deal with employee issues as they arise in the village. We deal with such issues, for those people who don't know, as compensation, benefits, IT development, organization, legal and ethical concerns, union contracts, and in particular, customer service, making sure that it's clear, improved, and working. We meet twice a month, and we function just like you do according to Robert's Rules of Orders, though sometimes I think we use an abbreviated form called Bob's Rules. And we have a fixed agenda. Members from the other boards regularly attend our meeting, and we do use closed executive session to deal with legal and personnel matters. We do meet regularly with senior staff in the village. At our last meeting, we met with Jackie Giacometto on human resource issues, and tomorrow we're meeting with Bruce Hartley, who now, as the person in charge of general services, also oversees landscaping. As many of you know, we have developed a strategic plan with staff. We have 60 items on that plan. We're very ambitious. And 5 goals. The 5 goals are exemplary customer service, facilitating efficient operations, providing a safe community, transparent communications, and becoming an employer of choice. I'd like to just briefly highlight activities in each of those 5 areas, and I will attempt to be very brief. With regard to customer service, as many of you know, the new website for the village is being improved. I know I've used it recently, and it is clearer. Obviously, it still needs further improvement. There have been some glitches, but it is an important step forward. In particular, we've tried to provide more information for new residents. We've also tried to improve the club news, and I know that staff has been working with village clubs to get their information onto the website in a more expedient manner. For those of you who do use or use TV6, we are now Village TV, and I know one of the improvements has been first-run movies that you can get on Monday and Friday, and I've heard very positive responses from village residents. Customer service training continues. It is my understanding that there has been better customer service training of recreation staff, and the gatekeepers are next, gate staff are next on the list. I should also point out that a survey was recently made of village residents via email about a handyman service. Almost 1,000 residents responded positively and indicated an interest in that service. I should point out and stress this is a voluntary service. Only if you wanted to join, you pay an annual fee, but it will take care of such services as hanging pictures, and I could have used them last weekend, turning mattresses, installing blinds or drapery rods, adjusting sliding glass doors, cabinet hinges, and probably efficiency testing of some appliances. I must stress that for those people who go ahead with this service or are interested, it will no way negate or replace any services that you are currently receiving from your mutual. I can't say that strongly enough. With regard to efficient operations, a new business planning program is now in place, MS Forecaster, to save staff and board time. The new budget shows there will be a slight increase in staffing, particularly in compliance and water intrusion. And it is my understanding that monthly financials will soon be online for members to be able to review themselves. Dwelling Live, I always make a pitch for residents to use this service. It is very efficient. I used it this weekend to make sure that my grandson could come to my birthday party. And if more people would sign up online, it will also relieve our call center staff. I've also been told that we have a new broadband antenna. Those of you who would like can view it in near our RV lot. It provides faster broadband service at no cost to residents, and it is my understanding that the RV lot is also being renovated. Landscaping is a continuing issue. I don't have to say that. I see smiles, I see grimaces. We get pros, we get cons. Clearly, one of the issues is that we had a very rainy winter season last year, or last season, and it caused a great deal of growth. There have been steps taken to try to address landscaping concerns. Additional workers have been placed under contract. There are crews or staff working on weekends, and there have been supervisory changes. It is our hope that landscaping will be able to regain its footing by the end of this month and the beginning of next month. With regard to ensuring a safe community, automatic gates, it is our hope will be in place for all entries in 2 years. I'm optimistic. Chief Moy recently received an award from the American Red Cross on his disaster preparedness plan, and it was unique for its focus on communication, on social services, and on working with local utilities. He's been doing a great job. Finally, in that regard, for those of you who may not be aware, Thursday is the Great Shakeout. That's this Thursday, 10/19, and it's my understanding the Great Shakeout is at 10:19 in the morning. I hope everybody is ready. Transparent communication. Our job postings are now online. People who are interested in working on for the village can now go directly to our website. They can also apply online. The Village Breeze continues. I was glad to hear Bert's article that will appear on leasing concerns. And once a week, Brad Hudson is on Village TV. As to being an employer of choice, when I was here last time, I talked about our mentoring program that is still ongoing. Job posting, as I indicated, are online. Our human resources information system is currently being tested. We will streamline our payroll. We will have direct deposit or payroll debit cards. And we have just completed biannual sexual harassment training for all executives, supervisors, and managers. And finally, our defibrillator CPR training will be completed for existing staff in December. We all heard about how Luis, based on that training, saved somebody's life recently. And next summer, we will train all new staff. I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the VMS board, and I look forward to my next time here. Thank you very much.
I have a question, Marcy.
Sure.
Did they have harassment training or sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment.
Not all harassment? It's not all the same.
We've had
It's just-
we've trained for both of them.
So it's different,
Yes.
but it's all harassment. So it could be religious, sexual, you name it, harassment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, oh my goodness. So, Brad can now give the CEO report. We're hoping that this meeting is being that we had our annual meeting and a lot of departments already gave their reports, we're hoping that this meeting will be ending around noon. So Brad, you got that?
I got that. I will
All
not
right.
take that much time, I assure you.
Okay, all right. Put the timer on. All right, go.
Honorable Madam President, members of the board, members of the community, it's always a pleasure to come and talk about what we're doing. And I thought Marcy's presentation was great, and we're very excited about the chief's and really the community's award for the disaster preparedness plan. Really, a lot of people worked on that, and it was a team approach, and as will addressing a disaster should it occur here. And so I really appreciate everyone who participated in that endeavor. Similarly, we are up for a very prestigious award for our new website, and so we'll have more details on that very, very shortly. Of course, you know, every time they say, well, we're going to get a big award for our website, and then I go online, I find something wrong with it, and then have to fix it, you know. We've had a lot of people in the community on staff, consultants, reviewing this, going through it, and sharing issues that they find. So I ask the community, as you go through that, and you see that a piece of information is not there you think should be, or it's in the wrong section, or there's some problem. There were some 30,000 pages of information that we were dealing with in terms of transitioning between websites. So there are things there that need correction, and we need your help to find them. So I ask you, if you see something that looks out of place or missing, please let us know, and we'll get right on the corrections. There's a lot of stuff going on out in the field right now. One of the things, and I asked Bruce to join us, I'll introduce him in a second. Many of you know him, maybe the community doesn't. We've put a big emphasis on concrete and sidewalk work. And before Bruce took that program over about a year ago, they were working on 2013 tickets, just so you know. And so we've changed the management structure there, the way work's deployed, and so now we are just about current. All work is in 2017, and so you've seen them out there. You probably noticed that things are being ground, concrete's being removed and repoured. That team is really going, and that's good because you allocated funding in your budget next year, really, I think for the first time, to actually have a concrete program. And so those folks will have will not have a backlog of tickets that will slow them down from getting to the work that you have requested. And so I'm very excited about that, and that's really part of what Bruce brings to the table. I'll get to him in a second. Well, maybe I won't. Marcy talked a little bit about some changing directions in landscaping, and I have my thoughts about how things should happen here with respect to landscaping. I'm sure James might have some thoughts on that, as well as do the GRF and United Landscape Committees. And Bruce does as well. It's important to note that Bruce has a degree in ornamental horticulture, is an arborist, has worked for years in a number of landscape management capacities, as well as building maintenance, roadway, you name it, custodial. And so he has really done an outstanding job here over the last year in getting our paving and custodial crews squared away, and he's the one that's made the dramatic, though not dramatic enough for some, changes to our transit system. We used to have 11 buses running empty around the village, but now, thanks to Bruce's good works, there's only 8 empty buses in the village. So we're very proud of him for that. Anyway, so we have reorganized and put landscaping under general services. And at the same time, we've pulled golf course maintenance out of landscaping. And that is now reports to the brand new golf director we just hired. So Bruce is the general services director. Landscaping will be a division, is a division under his department. So I wanted to introduce him to the community and then maybe have him say a few things about what he's got in mind. So Bruce, can you come forward, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair and directors. Most of you have met and talked with me before, but not as your landscape director as well. So we've added that into general services. I'm already meeting with staff and a lot of residents, seeing if we can make some quick improvements and get the operation back on track. The main focuses that I'm trying to move forward immediately is primarily the customer service. We're, as you know, because of drought and rains, we're behind. So we're catching up. And people don't necessarily understand that, and they're impatient. So what I want to make sure is that our staff is conveying to residents when work will get done, what work will get done, so that they're just not left out of the loop. Most of the time when we've had interaction and talking with residents, they seem satisfied with that. Certainly there's several that are not satisfied with the level of work, and I think most of us in this room share that depending where you live and the areas you see. A lot of areas are in really good shape, and most of our supervisors are right on top of it. We do have some areas that are very troubling. We've been through those and done a lot of work on those, but there's a lot more that remains. I've been walking them this week, and Brad and I have been driving them. So we're going to be focusing on those areas. We've done some overtime to catch up on some areas, and we're just redirecting how we do our work, where we do our work, getting back on track, and then we'll be working on how we get more information to the residents so they understand what's happening, what we're going to be doing. As Brad said, we brought a lot of changes to the remainder of the department. Custodial is we've spent a lot of time on and is going a good direction. Paving, we've put some new leadership in place there. We're making a lot of improvements there and actually getting work done quickly and getting back to residents. The ticket count was unacceptable, dating back years, and we're getting very current on that. So hopefully we can maintain that progress. But the focus now will be on landscape. I've talked with several of you here about specific areas, and I've talked with a lot of your constituents. Believe me, I've heard their opinion on what needs to get done, and we're certainly going to make sure that happens.
Thank you, Bruce.
I have a question, Bruce. So in the past, if somebody had a problem with their landscape or a concern, they would go through contact resident services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that is still the way we do it?
Correct.
Okay. I think one of the things that a lot of residents have a problem with is not only the work, but some of the employees talking on their phone all day, just not being what you would want to have as your employees. How sitting, I've told Brad this, they've been seen them sleeping in the street at gate 14. I mean, you name it, you want to have like a breakdown. So how are they supposed to do that, through resident services also? If if there's a concern, how do you want that handled? Because that's,
That's not a work request, so.
Yeah, it's not a work request. It's
They can contact me directly. I'm happy to hear it. Believe me.
And how would they contact you directly?
They could email me.
And what is your email address? You think, don't think I'm not going to push it.
Well, the thing is on
it's-
resident requests, we want them to go through.
Absolutely. But sometimes there are things, like somebody setting up a barbecue, all the things that they're not supposed to be doing. They're setting up a barbecue, they're all whatever. And you have to know about this, because in order to elevate the level of the department to where you want it to be, you have to know not only about the trees, but the whole deal, because you're in charge. So they would email you how?
Bruce.hartley@vmsinc.org.
BRUCE.HARTLEY
Correct.
@vms.org.
Inc.
Inc. Oh, VMS.inc. Everyone does.
Inc.org.
Oh, see? VMSinc.org. All right, everybody got that? Okay.
And let me assure you, the employees I had prior to accepting the landscape operation work a lot more productively than they did prior to my arrival.
And they do.
We're out and about, we see more, we're holding them more accountable, and that will certainly add to the efficiency of those operations, which it already has, and we'll bring that same thing to landscape. Now that I'm in charge of landscape, things that I've seen in my time here will certainly be addressed. I can assure you that.
And Bruce also handles, are you still handling the trash department?
We have a trash contract.
I know, we know that,
Yeah.
but if we
Oh,
say.
yeah. And as you've noticed, hopefully you've noticed that those complaints have gone down. We've made some changes. We have some other staff working on things. We're pressing waste management hard.
Yes, we know, and we know that.
And
So-
we've gotten a lot of refunds back on overcharging. So that is, luckily, it's working very well, and there's not a lot of complaints to your board members.
If the trash people, this is something that came out, are really rough on the trash doors and they're broken, do we let you know, or do we let M&C know?
Resident services is a good place to start. In other words, put it in as a request for a broken door. I've gone back to waste management and had them pay for repairs to doors that we could show that they damaged.
Okay,
Same-
because that's something that we in the field see quite often.
If we see it happen, and then we can hold them accountable, where they tear off a doorknob or they break a concrete trash enclosure, we've made them pay for the repair.
Okay, well, that's good. And does you have a
Yes.
question? Oh,
I have a couple questions and one recommendation. Question is, you said you are trying to catch up for whatever fall behind on the landscape. How soon do you expect to be caught up? 6 months, 3 months?
Well,
2
I think
months?
if you look at the community, we're not behind everywhere. Certain parts of the community are in perfect shape. Some are just waiting for rotation of work, and then others weren't managed well and are overdue for work. So I think across the board, you can't just say, well, we'll be caught up in a certain amount of time. I think the problem areas, one by one, we're getting on top of those. And I would think by the time we get into the colder weather, probably, we're hoping October, November, when it really cools off, because the cycle for mowing will be stretched out, and we can get on to some of that other work. So the manpower won't be taken up by weekly work. So I would hope within the next 30 days that we would be back into a mode of where the work needs to get done when we get there, but it's acceptable and can wait, and we're not in the mode of everybody calling and saying, we need it now because it's terrible. So I've seen some places that need work. We've jumped on those. We're changing some of the practices. So hopefully, as soon as we get into real fall rather than
Yeah.
Santa Ana weather conditions. So I think maybe 30 days.
Sorry, okay, because constantly I get a call from a resident, says, oh, my landscape, whatever maintenance is way far behind. So I need to get some information so I can tell them, well,
if beyond 30, within 30 days, if after that, you still fall behind, let us know.
And there's varying things, is that we're changing when we do our mowing, we're
Okay.
changing in third, we're changing how we do that so that we leave a cleaner product so that it can wait longer. A lot of times people think, well, that's what I get and I got to wait 9 days or 9 weeks for the shrub, and we can't have that. We need to do a better job when we're there so that people don't have to, call back and complain, say, why didn't they do a good job? Do we have to wait 2 more months? I think you'll see a little bit of both of that. The work will get better, and hopefully it will hold longer until we get back to that.
Okay. Second question is, since you are in the process of hiring a landscape manager or director?
Manager.
How soon do you think that will happen, or you don't know?
I'm reviewing applications right now and talking with 4 different applicants. So it's still open and being advertised, so we'll continue to get resumes.
Okay.
But there's 4 right now that we're talking with, so hopefully within the next month or so.
Okay. Well, the lastly is a one recommendation. That a lot of people complain about the resident services. The reason they complain is they called and then never heard from a resident again. So my recommendation is, can each time a resident call the resident services, can you give them a registered number? Says, this is your case number, whatever, XYZ. So next time, at least they have some number they can reference to, says, hey, I called this day by this number, can you check on the status of this particular number? Because many times, maybe the front desk people respond was different. This is, we don't know anything about it. We don't have any record about it.
That's already done. Is
Yeah,
it through
if-
Stellar? Resident Services tracks every work request.
So maybe if you can
It's there.
sort of advertise that number. This is, this is your number. So they can, next time when they call, they can reference to that number, to refer to, rather than you start scratch and then start from everything new, and then turn out to be one thing.
Yeah, I can't speak for Resident Services, but there is a number on every work request, and when they call in, they can ask what the status is, just by name or manor number. But that is tracked. It's a very long number, and it's just easier for customer service-wise to ask you what your name is or what your manor number is, and not have to remember a 10-digit number. But every one of those is tracked, and even through completion and all the history.
Well, so far, many times when residents call me, I says, did you talk to resident services? Yeah, we did. We called again. This is, they have no record about so, what can they do?
Well, I think it's something that Brad has to be working on. I mean, I don't think.
Oh, we're working on this pretty hard.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
obviously to us, it's not hard enough, so, but.
Well,
okay,
I can assure you with 1.2 million calls a year to resident services. Even a tenth of 1% would be like 5,000 tickets that would have some kind of glitch with them. So that's what we got to do. You're talking about really micro decimals, getting down to that level of error to be satisfactory. So the other piece of this is to get away from a paper-based system, which is what we have. This is all paper we're talking about.
Right.
And we're real close to having that turned over to an electronic system that sends these work orders directly to the field electronically, no paper.
Well, good, because we discussed that during your interview, and that was almost 2 years ago, so we're waiting, biting our nails.
Well, I didn't know you didn't have any computers when I got here.
Well, you should have been prepared. Okay, the next one up is, I know it's Steve, it's Bert, and Bert. What's happened to the request to speak? Is that working?
You got it.
My screen doesn't work at all.
Okay, while they're figuring that out.
Okay.
How long will it be?
So we have Steve Parsons, Bert Moldow, and Bert Baum's name isn't up there yet. Okay.
How long will it be before edging commences along the edge of flower beds? And how long before thistles are pulled in flower beds and suckers are cut off of trees?
In your neighborhood should be within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
At least that's what I've been assured of. Believe me, I will be right behind that supervisor.
Okay. Bert Moldow.
How long will it be before I could go online and find out the status of a request?
That might be a little bit longer. I think that the first part is to get all the supervisors, lead workers in the field optimized mobily, and then to ultimately, through a resident portal on the website, which we're still developing, allow residents to be able to access those directly. Okay.
Well, I think the day that residents don't have to call in anymore will be a big celebration, because you have totally different type of residents, and talking on the phone is frightful. We have Bert Baum. Do you still want to speak?
I just wanted to compliment Bruce because I noticed a change in my lawn. I think the edging is much better. They're not leaving clumps of grass on the lawn. It looks much neater, so I think you're on the right track.
Bruce is also responsible for the garage cleaning or the whatever, and I have heard people say that this is the cleanest their place has ever been done in 7 years. So, and I didn't see any, big things of equipment and all these steam cleaners. So it's obviously the staff who's doing it. So it's obviously, even in the janitorial, from those of us who have janitorial service, because we live in Garden Villas or LH 21s, your staff is responsive, and we're really excited about having a landscape staff responsive and everyone else. Are you going to be at the next meeting of the Landscape Committee, which is November 2nd at 9 a.m. in the Sycamore Room?
Yes.
Okay, good.
He's very excited about it. He told me earlier.
Because those can sometimes be rather lively. So, good, that's good. That's good. I asked that for James because James chairs that,
Well,
so.
Just to let you know, apparently I'm popular because at the United Landscape meeting, which is usually lightly attended, we had standing room only last week. I don't know if that's a good thing.
They were fighting over a tree, though. You had the pro-tree and the anti-tree, and they were clashing right in front of his first meeting.
Well, I think that, and this was something that I talked to some of the board members about, I think that when we start having these meetings that are very important to the committee, we should move them to the boardroom if we can. Because when we use the Sycamore Room, first of all, for hearing impaired, they can't hear. And we have to do a better job of not letting this room sit empty and give the person the room to have an audience and to let people attend, especially in the key departments and the key areas we know are landscape and M&C. I think M&C meets. Does M&C meet in here? Yes. Yeah, but so maybe.
Landscape's probably another one, maybe architectural too, if that's.
Yeah, well, or finance, so maybe we should probably look at that and see if you could change that, because you're such a hot topic.
All right, Bruce, get back to work.
All right, thank you for.
Oh, Bruce,
A couple of thoughts.
Bruce, I had one more comment to you that it may help. I visited my brother this weekend. He's a pest control operator in the San Gabriel Valley, and they are having a heck of a time with a tiger mosquito, really serious. And I suspect with your landscaping crew, they're probably going to be the first people getting bit as they walk through that landscape if those mosquitoes are hatching in the grass and in the flora. And you probably just make them aware that they really need to report if they're starting getting a lot of bites while they're out in the field. And Orange County Vector Control would like to know. So it's just a comment, it's just a piece of information that I think everybody in the community should be aware of, that having standing water in your pots, in your flower beds and things like that, overwatering is a real problem.
Even more so with that mosquito, it doesn't need standing water.
That's right.
So it's important not only for workers, but also residents. It doesn't take neglected water sources. So
That's right, I understand.
It's a growing problem.
It is, and but people tend to overwater in this environment, which is amazing to me, but in a desert, but it happens. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce,
very
and
much.
we're very excited about having you. All right, Brad, are you done?
I get a little bit more. In addition, one of the things we've done to improve landscaping is to take away a lot of these ancillary duties over the years, and I suspect it was somewhat drought-related. Well, nothing's growing, they're not that busy, give them something else to do. And so things like carport cleaning, garden villa, breezeways, of course, the golf course program, and then managing the garden center program was all kind of lumped under landscaping. We've extracted all those. All those things are not under landscaping anymore, and so landscaping is focusing just on your manners and the landscaping around it. That's it.
But Bruce is still,
He's still in charge of it, but it's a different group of guys.
okay, that's all right.
It's a different
We don't
group of
care.
guys. The other thing, he wasn't real specific, but there's some very easy, concrete things that I think we can do very quickly to make a difference. One is they stopped the string trimming a while back and went really to more chemical trimming, and I am opposed to that for a number of reasons. Some of them health-related, and some it doesn't look very good.
What do
So
they,
They spray instead of trim with a string trimmer, and so it doesn't look good, it doesn't work well, and so we're going to kind of minimize that practice and actually trim with a string trimmer instead of chemical trimming. And I think residents will appreciate that for a number of reasons. The other thing I don't like is mulching mowers in small residential areas. They leave too much material behind, and it drives people crazy. They're great if you're mowing 5, 10, 30 acres, and you leave a little grass behind, not a big deal. But in somebody's little pathway around their house, it actually drives them nuts. So we're not going to do that. We're going to use those big mulching mowers. We're going to pick that stuff up, and we're going to use smaller mowers that don't leave a bunch of indentations in your yard. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to lower the mowing height. We're mowing way too high. This kikuyu has to be mowed tight, and it grows too fast. You mow it at 4 inches, it'll be 6 inches 2 days later. And so you got to mow it tight, and you got to water it less. James will like that. And so those are the kind of things that I've told Bruce to look at, that he's evaluating, and is going to move. He's already moved forward with a lot of this. So we're moving down the road. We'll get this landscaping squared away. It's going to be better than it's probably ever been.
So in the areas where there's a, what do we want to call it? The hills, you know, and.
Slopes?
Slopes, thanks. Lost the word. Slopes, and the slopes have plants that sort of hang over the walls. You know what especially if you drive in, what is it, Gate 7 is across from Gate 14?
Yeah.
And there used to be a thing where they said, oh, the board said you're supposed to just let it hang, you know, over the, and then I said, well, should it hang if it's dead, you know, so it went back and forth.
I think it should be trimmed periodically, clearly.
I think this should be a look, because if
Yeah.
you go around, you see a lot of it just hanging, you know, it's like just whatever plant it is, and it looks pretty sloppy because it obviously doesn't grow evenly, so that's going to be something that's going to be addressed too.
That's hugely important, as well as just slopes generally. And Bruce and I have looked at half the slopes in this community and talked about the types of plants that belong there and the type that don't. I think at times in our distant history, maybe not so distant, if something was left on the truck at the end of the day, they planted it on a slope. Well, slopes are critically important to our community, both in terms of aesthetics and protection. And so there's certain kind of plantings you want there, and some you don't. And we have a real mixed bag of stuff.
Well,
on the
and
slopes.
after you take care of Third, some of the clubhouses really need, I mean, you walk into some of them and you go, oh my goodness gracious, you know, and who is looking at this? It isn't a bunch of, you know, crazy board members here. And I don't know who checks it out, but we could take care of Third first and then do that.
Well, you know, they used to have a dedicated group that did the GRF facilities, and they ended that practice, and so it was just sort of picked up. Well, while you're over there, get that gate. And so that's something that I've asked Bruce to consider.
Oh, I mean, it's
Are you
like,
considering
it's
it?
frightening.
We're already on that. Is that there's the remnants of the GRF crew is working in golf, and we've worked out, they were doing 2 clubhouses. We're going to take that crew, add to it with 1 person off each of the other crews, and build the GRF crew to just do the GRF facilities, the gatehouses, the clubhouses. So those will all be done by a specialty crew, and take those away from the mutual crews so that they can concentrate on the mutuals, and the GRF facilities will.
Because
be
if you go in, walk into the golf club, or not golf club, I'm sorry, the bridge club, which is what,
7?
Clubhouse 7? It's frightening, the mess that they have there. I mean, it really is. And, you know, this is important, how those look is important to our resales, because if somebody goes to look at the facilities, they should look as good as they can, so.
We'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks, so I think you
Okay.
should see.
I would finish up by saying we have a lot of workers out in Third right now on a number of things, everything from concrete and paving, the red curb. We just finished up Gatehouse 8 and 9. We got a lot of stuff going on at Garden Villas. So there's just tree trimming going on. Yeah, there's really a lot going on. So I just ask residents to be careful. There's a lot of folks out there. And then lastly, if you live around the Gate 9 area, you've seen a lot of painting on the asphalt there, and that is El Toro's preparation. I've talked about it before for their reclaimed water project, and so you can anticipate getting a lot of things in the mail. We'll be e-blasting things, the articles in the Breeze about that coming project. They have their own very elaborate communication plan for that project, so you'll be receiving things from them. It will be probably moderately disruptive to vehicular traffic over the, starting maybe the next month or two and then lasting for several months. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to get a nice new road and a little bit cheaper water. So
So as long as you're there, I noticed that we're running around removing red line, but I noticed that they've been adding red line in front of the trash, which
Yes.
was a surprise. Nobody were we advised of it on the board? I don't know. And the community didn't know.
This was an oversight, and I talked to Eric about it, okay? And they are notifying the people that are doing the red line removal not to remove the red line where there are trash.
we had it both,
But
we had it both
they're
ways.
adding it. The thing is that we have.
They're adding it where they removed it.
No?
No, they're also adding it in a couple of areas where
They feel
cars
like it.
have parked there and Waste Management has refused to haul the trash away.
Okay,
But
but
the red curb people are not adding it. It's
No,
our
that's our
that's
staff.
adding it.
Staff.
There's
Yeah,
just a couple of spots.
The
they're
red
adding
curb
that in.
people are
Right.
not dealing with
Yeah,
it.
but this is something that is lacking then in communication, because suddenly you walk outside and we're telling everybody we're removing red line, and all of a sudden you see a new red line. And it's like, what are you doing? So if it's important, it's important. We didn't think that somebody's just out there like a madman painting red lines.
No, these are
But-
two separate groups. There's a
Right,
sort of
well-
a waste management group that's just making
Right.
sure that they can get to all the bins, and then there's just a couple of those. Most of them are already
But
painted.
we should have told people about that. So if you see any new red lines, it's done for a reason, all right. Okay, so we're done. It's time for the consent calendar. Motion, please?
I so move.
Second. All those in favor? Oh, are we doing this electronically or by hand?
We're fine, we'll just do it this way.
All right,
since it
so
is done.
everyone, please show your hand again. Consent calendar.
Unanimous.
Okay, it's unanimous. All right, good. Unfinished business? None. New business? None. Well, there's a lot of unfinished business, but we talked about it, so we know. Committee reports, this should be very short because we did a lot of this at the annual meeting. So, report of finance? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have slide one, please? Slide one, please.
I'm bringing it up.
Oh, okay.
Just a second.
Okay. Total revenue for Third through August 31st was $22,151,000 compared to expenses of $17.9 million, resulting in more revenue than expense by $4,227,000. Slide two, please. Now we look at those same results with a distinction between operating and funds. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into operations, with $12,273,000 coming in from assessments and $692,000 coming in from assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenses of $12,819,000. After backing out depreciation, which is not funded through operations, The bottom line is $249,000 as of this reporting period. Slide 3, please. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into our reserve funds and the amount expended to date. Give you a chance just to look at that. Slide 4, please. Through August, Third was better than budgeted by $2,750,000, primarily due to the timing of reserve programs. Number 1, building structure contract was awarded in July, and the budget is distributed evenly through the year. Work is currently in progress at buildings 3336, 3371, 4025, 4026, and 5372. Number 2, waistline replacement work is currently in progress, but commenced later than expected. Number 3, the roofing program is currently in progress. The budget is distributed evenly throughout 2017. However, the work did not start until May. Next slide, please. On this pie chart, we show the operating expenses to date of $12.8 million by category, showing that our largest categories of expenses are for compensation and utilities. Slide 6, please. The reserve balances as of August 31st, 2017 were about $28.7 million. To date, contribution to reserves include assessments and earning interest total just over $9.1 million, and expenditures to date total $5.1 million. Additionally, fund transfers from operating surplus total $409,000 as appropriated by the board in June via Resolution 03-17-69. As mentioned previously, much of the increase is due to timing. Reserve program expenditures are anticipated later in the year. Okay, no slide, please. In the closing session, we reviewed delinquencies and unpaid reimbursements totaling $298,379, which represents less than 1% of our annual assessment budget. I'll forego the other part in this, other than to say that we are proactive in this, and it is continuing to be decreased as we speak. Okay, monthly resales report. First off, for all mutuals, monthly average through the end of September was 82 compared to 83 last year at this time. For all mutuals, total sales, the average monthly is $26,384,000. Last year was $24,707,000, so we're gaining ground there. Also, average resale price, monthly average, this year at this time is $318,700 compared to last year, $280,900. Getting to Third Mutual specifically, monthly average is 41. We actually had 45 closed through the end of September. The monthly average is 41 compared to monthly average last year at this time of 42. So we're down 2.3%, which is not really significant at this point. Total sales volume, monthly average is 16 million compared to last year of 14.5 million. So we're gaining ground of 10.5%. Average resale price last year at this time, this year at this time is $385,600 compared to last year $341,300. So we're gaining ground of 13%. I'd like to go on to the monthly leasing report. Right now, we have 1,648 reportable leases out of 6,102 units, equals 27.0% in that. One final thing to bring up is as of this morning on the MLS listing, we had unsold 86 condos, which are in Third Mutual. 67 of those are under contract and pending. Co-ops, there were 79 up for sale. 52 are under contract or pending. So total for the whole village is 165 units up for sale, of which 119 are under contract and pending. This is not bad compared to last month where there was 160 across the board. So the demand is still there, and as Brad pointed out this morning to me when we talked, demand is still there and growing. And we do expect more people to be coming in December. Brad even expects that. We talked about it this morning. So we're looking at having to staff up, people to authorize from the board during the month of December. GRF is not going to grandfather that into January for things that started in December. So just a note to the board, FYI, we need some people to hang around to sign things. Thank you.
Sorry, you had me mesmerized. So the next report is the architectural, all right, so the next meeting is November 7th at 1:30 PM in the Sycamore Room. But again, I urge all of us to try to push your large meetings into the boardroom, especially because there's nothing for hearing impaired when we go into these side rooms. And this boardroom is for all of us to use, not just the GRF meetings should be in here. So whenever we can, we should use this room. Then people can use the different equipment we have, and that's a good thing. And it's,
It's scheduled on here for the board, finance committee meeting.
well, it says on here in the
Sycamore.
Sycamore Room.
Right.
Oh, okay, okay.
So,
We can get
so
that
I,
changed.
I encourage us to do that,
Okay.
you know, for whatever meeting, you know, if it's a little teeny meeting, it doesn't make sense, but otherwise, I encourage you. Okay, so now we have Bert Moldow
Right.
on architecture and standards.
The Architecture Committee met, and we only had 2 alteration requests that we had to deal with. They're not on the consent calendar, but will be on the consent calendar for a special meeting that's going to be held Friday by this board,
Okay,
okay? And that's an open meeting as well.
all right.
And other than that, the next meeting for Architecture Standards Committee will be October the 23rd, and that will be in the Sycamore Room. And I believe it, you know, it's a subcommittee, basically, and
And that's
there
where
are
it goes.
documents that have to be dealt with and
Right.
people have to look at, so we'll
That's
keep it in
fine.
the Sycamore Room.
Yes, okay. So number C.
The next one, maintenance and construction, did not meet. We will be meeting, however, November the 6th. There are things that are ongoing that I reported about, and I don't think it's appropriate right now. I think people should come to this meeting if they want to know what's happening in M&C, and that'll be November the 6th. It'll be at 1 PM, and that we're going to be holding in the boardroom.
Okay. The next is there anything new on the parking task force, John?
Madam President?
Right, yes.
Excuse me, there is someone who would like to speak on the committee report, I'm assuming. I'm not sure for MNC. I don't know. I know we usually don't take those requests at this time, so I'm just wondering if you are going to do that.
She missed the open forum. I'm sorry, I just spent so many times, I need to mention a couple of things if I can.
Please use the microphone.
I'll come back.
Okay, I
I
just have a question. Is it something that a director could help you with?
Yes.
Yes. So what we should do is, instead of having you go on the, you know, because I don't want to keep this meeting going, you could meet with Bert and deal with whatever. So Bert, could you do that?
Sure.
All right? So, okay. All right, so Bert will be right with you, okay? So John,
Leslie, first slide, please.
is this the parking committee?
Yes.
All right. Okay. We don't see it. We can't, oh, there it is.
Thank
All
you.
right.
For those of you who have not seen this, we hired a consultant to tell us where the parking needs are here in Laguna Woods Village. The red areas are where the greatest need is, and the orange area is second, light green third, and the green areas, it's close to adequate. This particular slide shows that we have completed 7,106 linear feet of red curb reset, which means that we've sandblasted the red curb. And we've created 323 stalls, and you'll note the circled areas are where the work has been completed, and those are cul-de-sac numbers, and each cul-de-sac that has been completed is circled, and you'll note that we concentrated in the red and orange areas, and we did do some light green. The staff went out and measured the requirements for the backer-uppers in those carports that have to back up, and where there is red curb opposite the carports that has been removed, and staff has determined that it does meet the standard that has been grandfathered in. The Orange County Fire Department, OCFA, has certain standards about having access through those areas by a fire truck, and there has to be a certain amount of room, and we do meet the standard. And finally, the parking task force has agreed that further additional parking dollars will not be spent. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much, John. The next report is the Garden Villa Golf Cart Task Force. Anything new to report, Annette?
Yes, basically, next Thursday, October 26th at 9:30 to 11:30 in the Sycamore Room, we will be meeting, and we are going to discuss the golf cart decals. And so interested folks, please come.
Okay, thank you. Report of landscape. James?
Well, because I was away, so I asked Bonnie to give us an update on the landscape. Bonnie?
Well, Bruce said
Turn your mic on.
mostly.
Put your mic on, please.
And,
Are you trying to say we spent enough time on landscape for today?
No, I just have a couple of things. And one is that at the Algarobo meeting on 10/28, what time does that start, Steve?
9:30.
9:30, that Bruce will be there to talk, and also Lori. And so we're actually, that is a neighborhood meeting, and we're expecting a lot of people to be there. You even get breakfast. So that was one thing. The other thing is the Breezeway resurfacing project. And by the time we get to the November 6th M&C meeting, okay, we will be bringing a new concept for the landscape and the colors, you know, because they've decided to have a two-color instead of just one color. So if any of the residents are interested in learning more about the Breezeway resurfacing project, they are welcome to come to the M&C meeting.
Okay.
Let me make up some. No, I think that our technology director just told me this morning, the software, Opera Pro, is fully updated, fully implemented in our system. Therefore, the landscape staff can use that as a guide as far as the tree trimming, timing is concerned, or tree need to be removed, rather than people have to complain and request to remove the dead tree. So hopefully we'll have a much better handle than that. And also, I guess our soil sensor pilot project still going on, and it was a 2-gate area. And so far, I guess they have one of us 11% saving, the other one is 7%. So we're still evaluating. We need about 10 months out of a year to sort of go through all different seasons to see how the water saving is concerned. The lastly is now I've been advocating about turf reduction in order to save water. So during the summer, because it's too hot to do it, now the weather is cooler. Well, this week is still not, but Now, we should, from now till March next year, we should be full-blown to convert the turf to ground covers. And so anyone is interested in, please make your request. Of course, we already have a lot of requests still remain to be accomplished. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Jane.
Susan has a comment.
I'd just like to thank Violet Lawrence, who's been a wonderful advisor to our Breezeway group. She's helped in many ways, and I'm going to ask many of the people listening to us to consider offering your help to committees, just as Violet has. Violet has actually gone beyond the normal scope of work, and I think we just need to thank her here publicly.
Thank you very much, Susie, and that's a very good point. She was outstanding. Okay, so the next is the traffic hearings. Before you start, did Tim send a note about traffic hearings were going to be done in a different way, or was I dreaming? I might have been dreaming.
No.
Okay, all right, so
it's-
Jules, you will report on traffic hearings.
Briefly, yes. At the last traffic hearing, we had 17 disputed violation matters. It resulted in 12 guilty findings, 4 not guilty findings, and 1 matter was adjourned pending further information. Of the 12, 9 fines were paid. 2 violators opted for traffic school in lieu of paying a fine, and 1, a non-resident, got even for an unfair guilty finding based on an improper vote that I previously reported on. The person simply ignored the finding and didn't pay anything because she wasn't a member, she wasn't a resident, and I am not aware of any authority that we have to compel enforcement that is absent an enforceable agreement to be subject to our rules and regulations. A non-member, non-resident can thumb their noses at us, which is a very good reason for obtaining, when appropriate, a formal agreement to be subject to our rules. For the record, the improper procedure will be corrected prior to tomorrow morning's hearing. And that is what you may have been referring to.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. In the past, and Judith is probably could laugh at this, it used to be that if somebody came into the community and they broke a traffic rule, the resident who, Marty's raised shaking his head, the resident who they were visiting was responsible. And it got to be pretty hard there. Or if like a delivery truck was delivering a chair and they were speeding, the person, and it didn't matter how many chairs they were delivering, I guess. So I don't know where we are in that, but it was always very odd. So, because if the guy delivered 3 chairs, it was the person who called him in who was responsible. So it was a very ugly area. I don't know if it's any better, so it'll be interesting.
Well, this is a perfectly timely matter because in about 2 hours, we're going to be discussing just that.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So.
One further item for Jules on this traffic.
Yeah.
Jules, the weekly new memo says the traffic hearing is not tomorrow, it's the 25th.
It's changed to the 25th. Well, so
Well,
you would have been there at the wrong meeting.
I have to assume that the new weekly memo is correct.
Well, does any?
Team up say?
So we're double checking that. Good point, John. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And staff is going to check, so we'll verify it. Jules, we don't want you to be there on the wrong day. All right, report of the community. Report of the Communications Committee?
We did not have a meeting this month. We're going to meet tomorrow, on the 23rd, that's Monday at 1:30 in the Willow Room. We're going to invite Susan Modell, who is a retired professor with expertise in surveying. I think we need some advice on how to do that. She will talk to us and tell us at least introduce us to the right way to run a survey, because we really need better information as to what is really going on in the community and what people need. And in addition to that, we are going to discuss launching a program, a communication program on the dryers. I guess this will be like a pilot program. What we want to do is to get out in front of some of the major policies that we're adopting or changes that are coming about, and let the residents know beforehand in a different manner, so they're not all of a sudden seemingly overwhelmed by any new changes. So we're going to get into that too. Thank you.
Okay, the Energy and Technology Committee, Bill?
Thank you, Rosemary. The Energy Committee did meet this month. Some updates. The exit signs for all the garden villa rec rooms have now been completed. They've been electrified, and they've got emergency lighting that runs on batteries that are on the signs. So a little more safety. There were 20 rooms that required signage, and those have all been completed. This week or next week, U.S. Energy is going to start doing a survey of the walkway lighting in gates 5 and 6, and they're going to be looking at the fixtures. They're going to be looking at whether LED lighting or where it can be best improved, and even possibly looking at places where we can actually add solar-powered lighting on poles, like we do on Avenida Faro over by Gate 10. The other thing that's going on is that, just to let everybody know, that the SCE street lighting acquisition is in progress. We're talking to consultants to help us walk through that, and then potentially help us operate and manage the street lights once we take possession of those lights. We're going to take possession probably anywhere from 6 months to 9 months from now. It takes that long for Edison to get it through its engineering department and okayed from the California Public Utilities Commission. There are about 50 municipalities going through this right now, the same thing. And the other thing that's happening is we're slowly but surely getting all the documentation completing for the solar project, so we can have it all documented for future boards and future residents, because that solar is going to be on those buildings for the next 25 to 30 years, and we need to know all of the particulars about that. And we have signed an O&M contract for the cleaning of those panels with the Phoenix Company. They're the same people that are doing United's solar panel cleaning and doing the maintenance on the inverters and other infrastructure in the solar project. And for now, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Is there anything, the Water Committee, James?
Yes, we had a committee meeting.
Okay.
And I do have things to say. But first, Jules, let me start, and then I'll let you highlight the important findings.
Yes, I have good news to report. The El Toro water bill for August contained a charge for the residential building, just a small little building, at
Could I have the first line?
3267 San Amadeo. They charged for 669 units of Tier 4 usage, an astounding $4,418. Yesterday, I visited.
Yeah, just let me interrupt. The first slide, if you look at the top number, every month we're tracking the high tier 3, tier 4 water use. You look at the top line, at the 3267 Sun Meadow, look at the tier 4, 565 units. That's a huge. That's why, Jules, now go ahead.
Yeah. So I visited there and I examined the meter, and I am pleased to report that there was simply a meter reading error. In point of fact, there were only 142 units rather than 565 units, and the 142 were total units. They were not just the Tier 4. So it was 142 for 2.5 months rather than 669 for 1 month. and it, probably cut down the bill substantially in excess of $3,500.
And I'm sorry, will you get that as a credit? or-
We will get that as a credit. Mark Stahl is already notifying finance of the error. That's in the works.
Yes, and not only we notified the finance department, I already complained to El Toro Water. I guess their vice president, Dennis Cafferty, and he said he'll look into immediately, look at this, what's the problem? So this is good that we're following, otherwise they just overcharge us. Who's gonna notice?
Because, yeah, absolutely. You're
Yeah.
absolutely, that's great. Great job.
Yeah, okay, the next slides, please. This month, normally, we only track the residential water, but this month, I noticed we have a huge, also, Tier 3, Tier 4 water bill on the irrigation. See, the irrigation is what our landscape planned according to, the season. Why we have this, especially since the August this year, the El Toro water already back to the 100% allowable water for irrigation. Now, why we got such a high Tier 3, Tier 4 water bills? So that's why I want to show this, and please, Brad and Lori, you work with our the landscape. Why we, especially now, is the weather. Well, other than this week, and our land already fully sort of well watered or wet. Why we have such a high, special Tier 4 water bill? That's just totally not acceptable.
James, there should be no reason why Tier 3 and Tier 4 water charges for irrigation should be applicable.
Right.
That was going to be my question. I was under the impression that it was not tiered, right? It was just a flat fee for the
No, this
irrigation.
is Tier 3, Tier 4, which means it's a penalized water charges.
But I thought there was no penalty. I thought there was no tiered structure for irrigation.
Okay, let me clarify that. In our third mutual, gate 7, 8, 10, and the gate 5 and 6, we do have recycled water. Under recycled water, there's no high tiers. However, gate 11, gate 14, and now, right now, gate 9 still has no recycled water.
No, this is for gate 11 and 14.
Gate 14 and 9. Yeah, well,
Okay.
fortunately, that's another information is El Toro Water gonna start this recycle water project in November. In fact, the whole project already awarded the contract. In fact, in November, they're gonna start digging the trench along the Gate 9 area. So don't be too surprised people come and starting digging your street and make the driving a little bit harder because they try to implement the new recycled water pipes. So hopefully by within a year, we will have, in fact, Gate 9 is a huge area, has Tier 3, Tier 4 water bill. Hopefully after that, we won't have that. So thank you. And any Jules, do you have any other comments to want to make? No. Okay, so now the third slide is showing because of that high tier water bill, so we got a huge, and also because of the error by the El Toro Water, we got a huge Tier 3, Tier 4 water bill to the past of August. Hopefully, that will improve and correct it in the future. Thank you.
So you're obviously going to be working with Bruce on this too, correct? Yeah, because there are a lot of issues that we have up in Gate 14 with overwatering, with sprinklers overwatering into the street and mushrooms growing and everything else, and nothing was done about it. So I think that you'll see.
I already complained several times.
Yeah, I think that you'll see an improvement on this because just in my own building, which is 2 down from this, they're always overwatering.
Yeah.
So I think that you'll really get that under control.
yeah.
That's excellent, thank you. Okay, so then we have a report of the Resident Policy and Compliance Task Force. Bert?
I will try to be brief. We had a meeting September 25th, which was specifically to see how our new policies related to caregivers and to renters were doing. And it was noticed in advance. It was a public, open meeting, and only one resident showed up, in contrast to the people who were here today. And many of the issues that surfaced today were brought up at that point. We're having a meeting as part of our closed meeting today to look over the policy again and to determine where we are. And we will have a new meeting of the task force shortly thereafter. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bert. So the only other thing that we have now listed is the GRF committee meetings. And we actually list all of the meetings that are coming up. And we only report on them if there is something to report on. But Judith said she wanted to say something. Is that correct, Judith, or was I dreaming again? All right. Well, so is there anything to report on any of these meetings? No. So go ahead, Judith.
Well, one thing.
Yes.
There's an error. The next meeting of Media and Communications is not in December. It's October 18th, not December 18th.
And speaking of next meetings, did we get an answer on the
Yes,
traffic meeting?
and yes, we did. The answer is that the next traffic is not October 25th at 9 a.m. in the boardroom. Got that, Jules? Okay, Judith.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak out of the norm. I was sort of disappointed, though, that on the GRF committee meetings, you didn't have a space for who's ever on that committee, because I know you just changed, to speak on the PAC ad hoc committee update. We talked about communication this morning and how important it is, because there's a lot of stress out there, because this is a very high dollar item, one of the biggest projects that GRF has going on, and people really need information. In addition to the website, which I do have a 2-page detailed info on the update. So it's important that this venue, you take advantage of being on television, and whoever gives the M&C report and someone who's on the PAC committee should give an update of what we've done so far.
Well, we'll make sure that Leslie lists that as a GRF committee highlight in the future.
And have you decided, I didn't see a resolution for the changes to committee assignments. Do you
No,
know
we
what's
do
gonna be
not
on that?
have a resolution on that yet, because we were making some decisions based on any movement to GRF, so we didn't want to have an exercise in madness, you know, do the list, then do the list again. So who is presently on PAC?
Well, it would be Frankel, John Frankel.
And?
It was John? Bill? Oh, Bill Walsh. Okay, so if for some reason we call a meeting next week, I will notify you two, because we're just waiting on SVA to compile all the information we gave them at the last few
Yes.
meetings and come back with us with a real plan, which is going to be very important. And I do
Is
want
that
to say,
okay?
on the website, where you can find the information on Clubhouse 3/PAC, is you have to go, well, to the website, go to residents, then go to news, then go down to the 4th page of the news, and then you'll see 2 pages I have detailed there, all the changes that we're going to make. So anyone who has an interest in that, they have to thumb through that. So I'm going to try to work with staff to do like we did with Clubhouse 2. On the very first page, on the left side, we actually had a Clubhouse 2 link where it would go directly to that 4th page. And so I'll work on that. People can find it. But we'll talk about communication. If you guys can include something at your monthly meetings, more people will know what's going on there, and there'll be less stress and more accurate information in the village. That's all I want to say.
Are you going to, do you have anything in hard copy for like the people who go to the Performing Arts Center so they could read it? I mean, because again, we have this thing where everybody's supposed to go to the link, to this link, to that link. Some people are link lists.
Why don't I
So-
find out, I'll see if I can put up a flyer with Rec Center and if they'll allow me to post it at Clubhouse 3.
Well,
with all
it's
the others.
not
Is
a
that
matter of them allowing you to post it. If
No.
this is communication, it should be, I think that information should be available there. So if anybody
Right.
wants to know what's going on with Clubhouse 3, and they don't want to go to a link, they could find it on what's happening at Clubhouse 3, hard copy. I think that would be important.
I'd
Okay,
like to make
yeah,
a
'cause I
comment
have-
on what, the one thing that's really going on that's of significance is the extraordinarily involved scope of work. Very, very involved, and a lot of opinions, and I think we're getting close to nailing it down, but it's extraordinarily involved.
I think people are just worried about that we're going to be spending bazillion millions of dollars, and I know you aren't.
No, it
So
won't be
that's
7
why,
million.
right, so that's
But-
why I think the communication is very important.
But the changes are drastic, even without the $7 million, it's closer to 3. But there's drastic changes and people need to be aware.
It's $3 million?
It'll be closer to 3 than 7. Right now, we're
Oh,
looking at
overall, but
maybe
this
overall
year,
4.5.
there's only a certain amount
Maybe
that's.
4.5. We may be asking for 3 more,
But this year, there's only a certain amount. that's-
1.7 million, that's in my website. I have numbers on the website as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judith. All right, so the next thing is we have a future agenda item, which we don't have to go over. So, do we? No, those are future agenda items, so we don't have to do that. So the only thing we would be doing now is director comments. So I'm just going to, I'm going to look at Bunny, I'm starting there. So if there are any director comments, please,
I have no comments.
No comments?
No comment.
None.
okay, so there are no director comments. That's a good thing. And we are going to recess this meeting, and we're going to go to executive session.
Thank you.
Not 12:05.